Robbie Forgotten, Chapter 12. Robbie did his best to be good. He danced with Stephanie and polished Stingy's car. He ate sports candy with Ziggy, helped clean Pixel's room, and practiced soccer with Trixie. Robbie performed endless chores alongside Mayor Meanswell to clean up the town and made himself a fixture in the community. The children could always count on Robbie to play if they asked him, and he was at Bessie's beck and call, and he even had his own vegetable box in the community garden now where he grew his carrots. None of the townspeople knew that Robbie had found his old lair. The tree house had become his halfway house at the end of every evening, and he was getting better at going up and down the ladder. It kept him close to everyone else, and always ready to join in a game or do a favor. But still, whenever he had the opportunity, when nobody was looking for him or expecting him to do anything, Robbie started slipping away to go for solitary walks. Walks that invariably led him to the billboard on the edge of town, to the secret inside the silo. Something kept pulling him down that chute and back into that hidden place, a place where he could be alone and quiet and still. The more times Robbie went back down there, the more he found in the place that redeemed its first impression. It turned out that there was a lot down there to like. The recliner, for starters, was the most inviting feature of the place. It was so comfortable that Robbie could fall asleep in it despite the unsavory surroundings. He just couldn't nap for too long, otherwise people would start to wonder where he'd gotten off to. Still, he couldn't resist a little snooze whenever he sat down for long enough. The cushions seemed almost to be molded to his shape. He supposed that they were. There were all those mannequins inside the tubes, too, each one wearing a costume or outfit that begged to tell a story if only they could speak. Robbie's experimenting on the control center revealed just how many costumes there were in the arsenal, as the tubes could rotate out one strange fashion after another. Pirate garb, a suit of armor, astronaut uniform, a sharp suit fit for a politician, dresses and animals and aliens, blue-collar corduroys and rock star robes, all manner of masks and hats and wigs shuffled through the displays. All of it was perfectly tailored to Robbie's measurements, too, no doubt. The electric keyboard was still functional, and Robbie found he could play a few simple tunes. There was a TV set fixed onto some sort of mechanical dolly that descended from the ceiling and played nothing but the shopping channel, which for some reason Robbie liked. The seemingly endless heaps of junk and bits of machines were less overwhelming and more intriguing with each successive visit. He found a purple softball that sputtered out garbled noises, boots that could walk by themselves, robotic bits and pieces, some strange combination of an umbrella and a fishing rod, and catapults and cannons that all turned the chamber into one big workshop. Among all the homemade contraptions was perhaps the best invention of them all. Robbie hadn't been entirely sure what it was on first look, some kind of oversized microwave oven with far more dials and buttons that seemed necessary. Daring to twist a knob here and punch a key there made the machine grind and whistle and chug for a short time, before it gave off a promising ding, and steam hissed out around the hinges of the door on its face. Riding on the back of that steam there was an odor that tickled Robbie's nose and pricked his mouth into watering. Somehow, defying all logic, the machine made wholly formed, sweet and chewy, frosted, gooey slices of cake. With no kids down here to remind Robbie that he didn't eat candy, the delectable morsel was devoured in seconds. Robbie made another slice. And another. After the fourth slice, he lay sprawled back and snoring on the recliner with the plate balanced on his belly and crumbs in the corners of his mouth, the TV set cycling between infomercials and static. He would have just stayed like that, if not for the big metal speakers that suddenly dropped down from the ceiling. They jangled and jarred him awake with their booming broadcast. "Robbie! Robbie, where are you?" Robbie flailed in his seat and scattered the plate and crumbs everywhere. He looked around for the people calling him before gazing up at the rusty old speakers, slow to comprehend. Whatever he was hearing, it was coming from topside. For all the gadgets and gewgaws down there wasn't a working clock to be found, and he had no idea how long he'd been sleeping. He hurried to get above ground before they could miss him any more. It was the kids calling for him. They were looking all over, up in the treehouse and over in the garden. Ziggy had gone so far as to crawl under the park benches and peer inside the mailbox. They'd even gotten Sportacus in on their search party, the elf springing up on walls to scan around from higher ground. Robbie tried to not look obviously out of breath as he ran into the town square and made himself available, leaning against the brick wall. No sooner had he done so, the kids noticed him and ran over. "There you are! Where were you, Robbie?" Stephanie asked. "Oh, just around," Robbie said. Ziggy pointed up at him. "Hey, is that frosting?" the little boy asked. Before the other children could inspect too close, Robbie scrubbed the lingering crumbs of cake from his mouth. "What, this? No, it's, just a bit of toothpaste." While the kids seemed satisfied with this explanation, Sportacus still looked at Robbie in a searching way. Robbie avoided eye contact, even though it was useless. Without having to ask, Sportacus knew where he'd been. The silent stare made Robbie fidget in place until he clapped his hands together animatedly for the kids. "Anyway, you found me now, so let's go." It didn't matter what they had him do, just so long as it kept Robbie busy and away from the billboard. And the townspeople had no trouble keeping Robbie busy. There were sports to play, gardens to tend to, fences to mend, and all manner of other chores to take care of. There was no end to it. It was all very tiring for Robbie. To always be nice, to wear a perky smile no matter how it made his face hurt, to be friends with everyone in town no matter how demanding they were on his time and energy, to be good, when everything down in that lair made it so easy to be bad. That evening, Robbie was slow going up the ladder to the treehouse. His stomach still felt heavy from all the cake he'd gorged himself on, followed by a hearty meal of sports candy he'd had to eat with the kids so as not to raise any questions about his sparse appetite. It had made playing basketball afterwards even harder than usual, and he'd excused himself from the game before the first half was finished. He was having a hard time getting the hatch to open. Robbie struggled to stay balanced on the ladder with only one hand to brace himself while he banged on the stuck door with the other. He growled a little with mounting frustration. The longer he stayed out in the open, the more likely one of the kids would come by to ask for a final game of the day, or Bessie would want him to take care of just one more thing around her yard for the evening, or, "Hi, Robbie. Do you need some help?" Robbie peered over his shoulder down the ladder at the speaker. Sportacus stood below him. He relaxed a fraction to see the elf over any of the other townspeople, but not enough to abandon all caution. "The door's stuck," Robbie said. "Let me try," Sportacus said. Robbie didn't see much reason to refuse. He was only a little reluctant to climb back down after all that work. Sportacus went up in his stead, and with a few powerful strikes had the hatch swinging open in no time. He pulled himself up inside the treehouse and popped his head back out with one arm extended in offer to Robbie. It was easier getting up there with Sportacus lending a hand, but the treehouse was not built to accommodate two grown men. Even once Robbie was safely inside, Sportacus seemed in no hurry to leave, however. In such a confined space, Robbie had nowhere else to look but at him. "Shouldn't you be getting to your airship?" Robbie tried prompting Sportacus with the suggestion. "I was just going to bed." "It's not 8:08 yet," Sportacus said. He tilted his head. "It's pretty early for you to be tired. Are you feeling okay?" "Why shouldn't I?" Robbie asked. "There's nothing wrong with turning in early, is there?" "No," Sportacus said. "Unless maybe you had too much frosting earlier and that's why you aren't feeling well." He grinned slightly. "Or was it toothpaste?" "I didn't get sick from eating frosting," Robbie denied, but the heat in his face betrayed him. He crossed his arms and hunched in the small space available to him. What's so wrong with having a piece of cake anyway? There's nothing wrong with it, really, Sportacus said. But why try to hide it? Because, Robbie said, those kids lose their minds when I so much as lick a lollipop. And you don't eat candy either. I'm just tired of all the lectures. I won't lecture you, Sportacus said. But I do think sports candy tastes better and is better for you than any cake. If you eat fruit instead of candy, you could have enough energy to finish the basketball game with the other kids next time. Wouldn't you like that? Robbie growled. That figures. I find a machine that makes cake, and I'm not supposed to use it. Well, Sportacus said, trying to maintain some levity in his tone to offset Robbie's souring mood. Maybe you can find a machine that makes something healthy instead. I could help you look. Don't bother, Robbie said. You don't really want to visit my home again anyway. Why do you say that? Sportacus asked. I thought you wanted me to visit you once. That was before I found it, Robbie said, narrowing his eyes at Sportacus. I don't think you'd like anything down there. Nobody would. But you like it, Sportacus proposed, don't you? Robbie's face pinched and darkened. It's easy for you to like your home, Robbie said, his tone heavy like a storm cloud. It's full of good things that make you happy, all your fruits and vegetables and sports equipment. But all the things in my home, he started to say, then paused. They don't make anyone happy, he finished flatly. Robbie, Sportacus said, his tone softening, are you unhappy? The question was like a slap in the face, wiping Robbie's expression blank, but only for a moment. What reason do I have to be unhappy? He scoffed. I've got it all, haven't I? All the vegetables I can stand to eat, more friends than I know what to do with, and plenty of fresh air now that I live in a tree, he snapped, then quieted. Doesn't that sound like everything you could ever want? Sportacus remained silent for a moment, his brow wrinkled as he studied Robbie's face. What do you want, Robbie? He asked. What do you mean? Robbie asked. Eating healthy and having lots of friends to play with, Sportacus said, makes a lot of people happy. Is there something else you want instead that would make you happy? Robbie's face twisted around the question, confusion dominating his features. His gaze tried to slip off of Sportacus, but the only other thing to look at was the bare wall of the treehouse, and the elf's eyes just pulled him back. How am I supposed to know that? All I know is what you and those kids tell me, and it gets confusing when you find something else that doesn't make any sense. I can't exactly remember what's right, now can I? Maybe that's all I want. I just want my memory back. Something dimmed in Sportacus's expression. He gave a faint nod and looked down at the hatch. Sorry to have kept you up, Sportacus said. Sleep well, Robbie. Robbie watched as Sportacus opened the hatch and lowered himself back down. He worried his lip in his teeth while the hero descended the ladder. Sportacus, he blurted out, and looked down through the open hatch. Sportacus had just reached the base of the tree, and he paused to look up at Robbie. Did I do something wrong again? It took a second for the question to work through Sportacus's head before the man put on a smile. No, Robbie, he said. It isn't anything you did. I think I just might turn in early, too. Okay, Robbie said, still keeping an eye on him. Good night? Sportacus waved up at him. As he lowered his arm, Robbie caught the smile fading from the hero's face along with it before he walked away.